Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 494. This is your Geek to the Guide side.
Ooh, way to go. We are off and running. Yes!
Guide to the Geek side. And I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra. 494 episodes strong, and I still screw it up. Joined by chilling Charlie Carden.
94. I graduated high school in 1994, and our 30th high school anniversary reunion is in 2 weeks. So that 94 sparked my memory. So, memories of
Yes.
Time gone by. But yeah, no, we're still in false fall here in Michigan. I don't know, Todd, I'm sure you're experiencing the same. Luke, I know you're down in the Carolinas, aren't you? I'm trying to remember where you're
North
from.
Carolina.
Gotcha. Hopefully you're safe and sound for everything that happened.
We were very fortunate. It was just slightly west. We missed school. Everything was canceled, and it missed us by a hair. So we were very fortunate.
Right. And with that, putting the cart before the horse, welcome our guest, Luke Lohr, who is the insipid ghost from the XEP.
Excuse me, it's Spook Lore, because it's scary season.
Right.
You know what? I hope you're watching YouTube so you can watch my eyes roll behind my glasses.
I was going to say, you guys are no fun.
Yeah. You know what? And with that, we're going to be less fun. Because, but it's going to be really hard not to be fun with this film we're going to talk about. But Luke, it's great to have you. I know I've been trying to get you back on Code 47, which I hopefully will in 2025. We were just talking about that before we started the show. But yeah, Luke is an awesome supporter of the show and an awesome podcaster. Todd, I'll let you talk about his network because, again, the video games aren't my thing, but Luke's a great cat.
Yeah, Luke runs Xbox Expansion Pass. I started learning about Luke, and obviously we probably have talked about this before, but you were on Xbox Drive, and for a long time you were just solo podcaster, which Charlie doesn't believe is even a thing. But I'm like, Luke does a great job of riffing on his own.
I would imagine it's challenging. You know, the voices in your head. Oh, what do I think about that? What do I think about that?
But yeah, Luke has been doing Xbox Expansion Pass for quite a time now. He's doing it with Captain Logan. Great team over there. Great interview series, interviewing and reviewing products and things like that for anybody who really loves the Xbox community. It's very positive. Everyone's embraced there, and they have an amazing Discord, an amazing Patreon. Join them if you want to really embrace the deeper side of gaming and other goofy things.
Mm-hmm. Digging deep. Awesome. Well, we are going to set in and have a good time. We got some trailers to talk about today, and then a great horror movie at the end, which I know was a particular chuckle for Todd. We kind of took intertwining notes, which at the bottom of our flow talk, so that's going to be fun. But first and foremost, how fortuitous. We have one of our great Patreons right here on the show. So Luke, cover your ears so that your head doesn't get too big. But we do love to get into the nitty-gritty, talk about how much we do love the folks over on our Patreon Super Squad, Secret Friend Squad, excuse me. You can visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, and for as little as $2 a month, tons of great extra content, including this fine program without ads. My show, Code 47, always drops a day or so early. And we have tons of great extra content as well, including a comic book show that Todd and I do called Spinner Rack, etc., etc. Lots of fun stuff. So yeah, we would like to give some respect to our friends, Chris1H1D, my pal Derek, aka the Figure Dude, Francie, my wife's hairdresser, a guy named Luke Lohr. I don't know, the name rings a bell somewhere. Oh, there you are. And my Uncle Tim, who I actually just we had a family gathering this weekend and got to check out with him. He's a cool dude, loves Star Trek, so great family supporter. I'm the Friends with Benefits level, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Kelly and Krayley. Krayley, congratulations on your upcoming expected. She is with child, first baby.
Oh,
so very excited.
Very good. Her. Hopefully born with mutant abilities.
I hope so, because that's a whole Phoenix Sisters thing happening. Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, and Matthew Keel, and last but not least, for which there would be with whom without not the secret friend Super Squad, the awesome nice family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. We are very grateful for everything that you do for us. Again, patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. And I do mention at the top of it, free 7-day trial. Check us out. No risk, no frills, no nothing. But I get a feeling you'll probably want to stick around because that's just how great we are. And speaking of greatness, Todd, March of 1961, what's going on?
Well, we got this covered. I tried to find something a little bit spooky. So this is number 94 that came out in March 1961. So kind of that weird, like scary, spooky sci-fi thing. We get Forbidden Worlds, stories of strange adventure. This book was 10 cents, and the cover is a big green alien looking through a weird reverse microscope. He says, "Don't look now, but the universe is afraid of you. Find out why in a thrilling story, The Conquering Breed." The little man looking up at him says, "So they think they're all powerful, do they? They don't know that I'm a member of the Conquering Breed." That's a weird name, Conquering Breed.
I mean,
and then,
yeah, I just don't. I don't even want to take an inference from what that could possibly mean. It seems kind of
exactly. And I like the secondary story at the bottom. It says, "He's back again. Herbie Popnecker, the world's strangest boy, tackles the supernatural in Herbie and the Spirits."
The world's strangest boy. Now, Luke, as an educator, I'm sure you meet a lot of weird kids. What's the weirdest thing you've ever bumped into as an educator when it comes to like a strange kid? I mean, to speak somewhat obviously completely anonymously.
Oh, what a weird question.
I know. Ooh, it's weird.
I don't know how to answer that without it being like tragically awkward.
Yes.
Don't hurt yourself, but if you can do it, that'd be great. But if
what
not,
grade? What grade, Luke?
I teach middle school. So
oh god.
Okay. So maybe early facial hair, early stench.
Definitely
bad wardrobes.
Dog boy, wolf boy, teenage werewolf, preteen werewolf.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer this legally. Let's just say all right. So I don't know if this is weird, but it's one of those things where you'll see a kid and you'll be like, "You're very familiar," and then you'll look at another kid across the room and be like, "Are you two related?" And they'll be like, "No," and I'm like, "Yes, you are."
Oh, you're twins.
Yes,
You're not faking it.
Your
parents go. Yeah, your parents. Yeah.
Out.
Somebody had a play date.
Oh,
yeah.
There's a play date.
Now I get it. Oh my god.
Yes. One thing about this comic, though, if you go to there's a website called Comic Plus, which is great, Comic Book Plus, where they basically talk about the comic and what's involved. This comic had 36 pages, but it's just great. It goes into details about the advertisements you could get and just the different details of the story. So if you can't find this comic, it's a great way to look back at some from the past. So check out this great comic. I'll include the link in the show notes because you know what, everyone should enjoy.
As one outgoing question, who is the publisher? American something? I'm trying to make
American Comics Group.
Okay, great. Well, obviously, to great aplomb. Clearly,
we've all heard of them.
They're going to be. You'll be hearing about them in 2025 as they simultaneously take down DC Comics and Marvel Comics. I'm sure.
I'm guessing this is the last appearance of the Conquering Breed as well.
Yeah, exactly. They conquered themselves. All right. Well, speaking of conquering, who is the toughest chick that we know, Todd? Don't worry, I'll answer for you. That would be our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb, who at 124 years young is still out there crushing it, getting those hot scoops for us down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine with a little segment we like to call the News with Madam Webb. Let's do it.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Madam Webb, obviously, you've had a long history of jobs, professions, and Luke, just let you know, she is a retired teacher. She retired back in 1949, though. Because of that, she's asking if you want to bring her on as, a secondary teacher or something like that, give a recommendation. She hopes that you have a set of encyclopedias on hand from 1937 because that's her wheelhouse.
Gotcha. Right. It's probably what she considers to be the peak of human civilization, I would imagine, 1937.
Yeah. But I know another guy that thought 1937 was pretty great. It didn't work out too well for the rest of the world, but he did think it was peak.
Touche. Very good. All right. Well, we got a trio of trailers this week, and holy cow. Now, Billy Crystal is the start of this first program that we've been talking about. To anyone's recollection, and not getting into a deep dive on research or anything, has he ever done anything genre related? I don't really think he has, but
if we count Westerns, then we have City Slickers.
Well, do we count Westerns? Well, we do, because we tend to talk about them on this show. So there you go.
Genre is just like a type of area of play. He was in kind of a pseudo soap opera when he did Soap back in the day. But other than that, I don't know.
I love so dumb. I don't know who showed Soap. Maybe it was Comedy Central, like back in the early '90s. But I loved it. Absolutely loved it. There, that's one for Google for you, dear listeners, because it was a silly show. Don't know it exists anymore. But yeah, Todd, what's going on with this show? It's like, bah!
Yeah, I mean, I really like Billy Crystal a lot, and the fact that he has really not done much in the more serious realm of, traditional. He's typically kept with comedic roles, and he did like Running Scared back in the day, which was a cool buddy cop film with Gregory Hines.
Yep.
Gregory Hines,
Yeah,
which is cool.
Hines, yeah.
It was like a comedy, but it had a little bit of drama to it. So I'm really excited that he's doing this. But he's essentially playing a therapist who is coming out of retirement, essentially, because once his wife passed away, played by Judith Light, he essentially is trying to, I guess, find himself again. And this is interesting about a little kid is found and essentially traumatized. No one knows where he came from. We find out he was actually abandoned, and he has moments of terror. And then he starts seeing things about, as Billy Crystal thinks, well, maybe he can help this troubled kid. Then the little troubled kid starts seeing things within Billy Crystal, which brings essentially the ghost of his wife back. And we get a little feel like What Lies Beneath, if you remember that Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer film. Kind of give me guides like this. So this looks really creepy. I'm excited that this is happening. It's on Apple TV Plus on October 25th. So this is not a series. It's an actual standalone movie. Oh, no, it says it's a series. No, it says it's a series. That's weird. Okay.
I was watching this trailer a couple hours ago, and April and I were sitting there, and I'm like, why? Because we ran into this with something we talked about either last week or the week before. That's a series that they're dropping at the end of October. It's like, what are they thinking about? Drop it at the end of September. Yeah. So that so that you've seen 3/4 of it by the time Halloween comes. So that just seems very odd to me. But like a movie, like the movie that I'm going to talk about in the Geek Easy, is great to drop at this exact time because it's 2 hours long and it's said and done. But while this looks exciting, it's going to be weird watching it into like Thanksgiving. But who knows? Maybe there's a Thanksgiving theme to it.
At least it drops with 2 hours to start, so you do get kind of a movie-esque length of time.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
8 episodes. Yeah, 8 episodes. So you'll have 2 drop on the 25th. Then I guess we're back to November 1st, if it's a week later, which is definitely there. And then there's 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks. So that's December. So that just seems really odd. But I never ended up jumping back into Apple Plus. I was going to for Lisa Kudrow and the Time Bandits, but then they canceled it. So to me, I'm like, they canceled it, so there's kind of no sense of urgency. But I mean, I'm sure I will at some point. But I mean, I don't know. I have to play roulette. Find a friend who's got a login. Wink, 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 wink.
Apple TV Plus is like is the quietest network because they put out consistent good stuff, but they don't advertise as much as other streamers because I think they know they've kind of got their own. They can market because they own the hardware to a large extent. They don't have to do as much. Yeah, their service now is $10 a month, where I think it was originally $5 a month, so it's gone up. But they do have Shrinkings coming back for season 2.
Oh, I enjoyed that.
Mythic Quest, if that ever comes back, I will watch there. And they have some other spooky stuff as well.
Well, they say they say Ted Lasso's coming back. I thought there was a bit about that as well. I don't know how though, because it seems like a disconnect.
Believe it when I see it. Because but with that, Luke.
Yeah.
Are you an Apple TV Plus guy? Do you? I mean, is this something?
I don't watch a lot of media. Like I would say of late, because of Spooky, my wife and I have watched more media than we've watched probably in the last 5 months together. So I don't really watch a lot. I didn't even finish Ted Lasso despite loving it.
And it took me a long time to get around to it. Ted Lasso did, and without any spoilers, is one of the rare series that I think wrapped up very succinctly. It just kind of tied with the bow. It was an ending, which was nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that you have to look forward to. But yeah, I don't see how you would bring it back.
We're going to get Ted's cousin Fred Lasso, and then he's going to have to pick up a rugby team to make them better.
Oh my gosh!
Better.
And all he is Jason Sudeikis without the mustache. That's how they're going to
Exactly.
It's a reverse Mirror Spock. No facial hair.
And he has a Californian accent.
Oh right, yeah. Oh god.
And
What are you doing here? Anyway, so yeah, this looks cool. And so 8 episodes between October 25 and essentially like the middle of December, which just seems weird. But whatever. I mean, there must be a reason.
Yeah. There's ways to get trials. I know T-Mobile, if you're on that, you can get a 6-month trial. I know PlayStation's given trials. Xbox, I think, has given trials. Apparently, Charlie, Instacart is just giving you trials for everything if you use their service.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what we have for Peacock right now. So, all right. Well, moving on. This made me sad. So you got Brad Boimler from and the Huey from The Boys, Mr. Jack Quaid, who I've met him on stage at Mission Chicago and explained some pleasantries because I was on stage in Starstruck in uniform because he's the guy from Lower Decks, and like a real horror movie. Ugh. This one, I'll tell you, when I saw the screen cap of it, because it's just a picture of this young woman who's the piece of it, and I thought her eyes were yellowed out, and the headline said something about this could be the next like real life Megan. That I thought she was an android, but as you watch this trailer, it's just a complete horror shit show. So, Todd, please, I'm too upset.
So yeah, that's the thing with this trailer. It's called Companion. It's a teaser trailer. It's called Companion. This is Warner Brothers movie. It's coming out January 10th in theaters, and it's a very confusing trailer because you don't really know what's happening. You don't know who's to blame, who's not. You do have Jack Quaid and you do have Sophie Thatcher, essentially at times injuring people, but then talking about they're meant to be together. And the vibes this gives me, and there's one scene at the end where the character is just holding her hand above a flame, her arms on fire, and she's just standing there and a tear is coming down her face. It's not saying anything. And it just comes off as very, very strange. The interesting part is, and if we watched this movie last year, I believe, I don't know if you've seen it, Luke, but Barbarian, it's by that director.
Yeah, that movie was wow. And Todd, that was the one. Don't let me mix this up. Was that the one set in the house in Brightmoor neighborhood of Detroit, or was that the one with actual barbarians and Norse mythology?
No. That was not the Northman. No, the Barbarian was the house in Detroit that was like in the middle of a blight field, which was a B&B.
Yeah, and it's great because that neighborhood in particular, Luke, my uncle, my stepmother's brother, is a Detroit cop and has described the neighborhood this was set in as one of the absolute worst in Detroit. But it's really, the whole thing about it is it's a B&B owned by character played by Justin Long, that there's stuff going on that he doesn't know about, but everything around this beautiful little house is basically looks like a nuclear, ground zero of a nuclear bomb. But the movie was totally nuts and filled with crazy random violence.
I like this, though, because if you read down further, it says there's not much about this, but the only clue about this film that Warner Brothers is opening up is Companion Story is a website that leads to a phone number you can text to get your own companion. The teaser reads, "Hey, you, tired of swiping? Sick of getting ghosted? Are you feeling like a part of what is missing? Findyourcompanion.com."
Not
that
at all
is cool. I love the augmented like Luke. Remember when was it Bungie used to do these type of events where it's like they'd like you'd have to go to a website, it would kind of lay out and would just either get to a bigger event or something. That's cool that they're doing this. I mean, what do you think? I mean, have you seen Barbarian?
I have not, but I did watch this trailer and I was stuck with two thoughts.
Yes, please.
The first, the fire tier was incredibly powerful. I thought that was awesome. I was like, oh my. My other thought is, I will be disappointed if this is an android like Megan or something like that.
Yeah, that's my fear.
Because I don't want that. I want like a person in this horror element. And it reminded me of, if you remember in Jessica Jones, Kilgrave could just say something.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
People had to do it.
Right.
And they could not fight back against it. And so I wonder if there is something like that happening where this person is obligated or forced to do all these things and yet is trapped in their own mind. I think that would be very compelling horror.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
That's what's going on. So,
I hope that's what it is. Absolutely. And again, this comes out in January, so first quarter January horror. Is that a thing? We've had other great horror movies, I think, in the first part of the year. Todd,
The Invisible Man.
Yeah,
that was a really good horror film that happened in January. It does and it's funny that you just mentioned that, Luke. What reminds you of Get Out? It also made me think of that.
Yes,
where people are basically trapped inside their own being, and abused or being used. So
they get reprogrammed. We watched that. We did the I call it April. So it's not really a trilogy, but the films directed by Jordan Peele. I kind of, because obviously he's the director of all three. But that was the first of the three, and we watched that not that long ago again, because obviously I'd seen it when it came out. But what a great flick! Just psychological trauma horror, which is what this looks like. So I'm fired up. So this will without a doubt be one that we hop right into. So all right, well, let's wrap it up with, you had to go with serious to very terrifying to totally ridiculous. Todd, Totally Ridiculous is your space.
Yes.
Based on the film we watched last week for Shocktober week number 1. So why don't you tell us about you wrote Pumpkins? It's Craven, right? Not Craven with a C. Or
no. It's not. It's no. It's third time's charm. Carved.
Carved. Isn't that what I said?
Craven, Carven.
Oh yeah. I combined the two. It's two things.
Yeah. So Huluween is a new thing where Hulu always brings original content, which is great. Right. I love it when there's original content, not just like, what is it, Freeform. It's like the 31 Nights of Halloween. It's the same 8 movies, just, you like Halloween Town, kids, you're going to see it 18 times. But in this case, we have a new horror comedy called Carved. And this is essentially pumpkins getting their revenge on people that take advantage of pumpkins during the fall spooky season. It's a goofy film. Yes. It looks fun. It's kind of like if Pumpkinhead was not that serious, and here we are.
I'm excited for it. I had no idea about it. I hadn't even heard about it. And then when I saw it in the notes and then looked at it, I was like, this is my kind of thing. Because it's perfect for this season.
It'd be a good time. And this comes out in 2 weeks. So perfect timing. I'm all for it. It completely ridiculous. I recognized the one kid with the longer hair, not from Stranger Things, but he was something else. That
he's been in other things. But I will tell you, somebody who's in this, which will be a name that you guys probably have not heard from in like 10 years. DJ Qualls.
Oh, Rat Boy from Road Trip. Wasn't he called Rat Boy? Am I right? He looks like a rat boy. That works. And he was also in The Wire, believe it or not. So he's done some dramatic work. So weird.
Yeah. I just remember that scene where he was dancing to Tricky for a long time. He's got an interesting history and background. But it's kind of cool to see some names come back. Other than that, a lot of unknowns in this, which is cool.
I was quick sidebar on Road Trip. The van in that was him, Breckenmeyer, Stifler, and the late lamented Tom Green. Is that guy still alive?
Yes, of course he's still alive. He's doing well.
Oh my God! Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to go watch that film. It's so dumb. But and Amy Smart.
Yeah. Yep. So this movie was actually based on a short that was done a couple of years ago, and they decided to turn into a full-fledged film. This is on Hulu, October 21st. Just a simple film, fun, goofy, a little gore probably. I don't even know what it's rated. Do TV movies, or do they get rated anymore?
They get TVMA SLVQ 17. They have letters. So if it's sex, violence, language, whatever. So that's the rate.
I thought it was only network.
They're very subjective. I thought they did. I mean, maybe I'm wrong for this kind of thing. They have to, because you're always going to have that dumb parent who's like, I took my 6-year-old to see Deadpool, which is always my favorite story of how stupid people are. Even though it was very clearly rated R on all of the marketing. But sure, take your 6-year-old. It's a superhero movie. It'll be fine.
Luke, I'm sure your students see things they're not supposed to.
I mean, Then again, we grew up in the 80s where our parents could get us, rental copies of Porky's. So we don't have a lot of
My parents never rented Porky's, really. Sorry.
April 100% has told me that her parents were like, we got to whatever. I mean, I watched Jeff Goldblum's The Fly when I was 10. And Aliens came out that same year.
Okay.
Those are not great movies for 10-year-olds. But anyway.
That's a follow-up for Luke then. Luke, what's the most inappropriate movie you saw at a young age?
I didn't. My parents did not. I was pretty much on lock. I think one of my most standout memories of watching something I shouldn't be was Chucky on TV.
Oh God.
And when
Oh.
because I've never seen it, I've never to this day watched it start to finish because it scared me so much. But I remember being in huge trouble because my mom walked in and I was watching Chucky.
And on
I was
TV, sanitized.
right, and I was still in very much trouble. But I had a very impressionable imagination. Like regularly, it was a problem. So like even watching Power Rangers, I would try to be the Power Ranger, and so that isn't always your best bet when you're
Right.
kid
I
is
can
running
jump
around.
off the roof. Yay.
Right.
Luke's at the video store looking at all those covers, and he's like, just can imagine the movie in his head and going, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe superpowers, press the tape up to your head and be like, now I'm watching Revenge of the Nerds. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Poor nerds, but they get their
Oh, my
revenge.
Yes, they do. And like about 9 sequels. So, all right. Well, let's move on. Todd, Bane has returned. Was that any good? Does that, maybe I should take the filter off? That's what he sounded
You're
like.
supposed to use your hand. Batman, I will get you. Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
This is CNN. No, okay. But anyway, Todd, looks like we're getting DC Studios announcements for films about Bane and Deathstroke together or separate. I don't know. A buddy cop movie. I don't know. What's going on here?
Yeah, apparently James Gunn and Peter Safran are developing a script for Matthew Orton, who is actually behind Captain America: Brave New World. So there's no director on the project yet, but it's apparently trying to team up some villains. So we have not had a villain team up with Batman in some time. We did have. It's been weird because when we get it's the success chance for success is very small. Deathstroke is typically not a Batman villain, which is interesting. But Bane is.
Who has the origin of Deathstroke? Who does he kind of belong to?
Teen Titans.
Oh, very good.
Teen Titans. Yep. So,
but there is bleed over. Like sometimes it's Batman, sometimes it's Titans.
He was a Smallville too, wasn't he? Yeah.
It's usually a matter of like, okay, one of the Titans that's related to Batman is how it kind of factors.
And Arrow, and then he got brought into Arrow as a great villain on Arrow, which I thought was really well done. So and then we obviously Bane was brought in the late 90s in the 90s in the comics, basically storyline called Venom, a big part of Nightfall breaking his back, and then we had a Bane in if you remember Batman and Robin.
Oh,
Bane was in that.
I was just thinking about that movie yesterday for some reason because somebody said "holy" something, and my brain went "holy rusted metal Batman" because that was what
Forever.
Chris O'Donnell unironically said when he and Batman were getting out of the Batboat on the villain's island, and there was a rusted metal. I'm like,
Yep. So I'm thinking in a way the way this will probably work because we are getting a new DC version of Batman that's going to be a little more integrated into the characters with Superman and things like that, called Batman the Brave and Bold, which is Batman and Damian Wayne. Mm-hmm. So with that, I could see us getting our first full-fledged, like uncampy, hopefully, version of the Bat family on screen, and then having to take down two very big bads.
Yeah.
I mean, will it work? I don't know. We were supposed to get Deathstroke at the end of it was the end of Justice League, correct?
Snyder's Justice League.
Oh god.
So we saw that it was going to be Joe Monticello.
Oh, that's right. There was a teaser. Joe Monticello, the Flash Thompson from 2002 Spider-Man,
and the leaked So that was also part of the leaked footage that Affleck put out to try and get his Batman movie made, which I'm forever sad. Mm-hmm. That whole era is just a broken mess of.
It was. He was a delightful Batman. I did like him very much as Batman.
He's a wonderful Batman.
Yeah.
And I thought that the dark take on the DC universe by the 4 Snyder movies, like if you do Man of Steel, BVS, Snyder's Justice League, and Wonder Woman, those 4 were untouched by studio, so they kind of had that same vision tone. But then when you started mixing in all this other stuff, eventually you end up with the Flash, where they somehow ruined 2 good Batman. Right. And it was just very sad. But I loved Joe Manganiello's take on what he could have been for Deathstroke, because he had the look just as well as the one from Arrow. They both nailed the look for their universes. So whatever this is, whatever Gunn's universe is, I think it will be amazing. I am slightly sad that this isn't in the Reeves verse, because I would love to see what a physically smaller Batman in Matt Reeves' universe would do with this grounded approach to what Bane could be.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Mhm.
curious because
Yeah.
as good as the Penguin and Catwoman and
Right.
oh my God, Riddler were, what could you
Right.
see done there? So I'm just curious to see what happens with them because I'm glad they exist simultaneously.
The good news is, it all comes around again. So even if this next generation of something is a flop, somebody else will come around and take another stab at it. So that's it's the beauty of evergreen characters, that is like, well, it's
Mhm.
Batman, and it's not just one Batman, and everybody has people have a particular attachment to a certain actor and a role. We've never had another Wolverine, so think about how terrible that's going to be after another 40 years of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, when we finally have to have a new one.
Till he's
Um,
90.
till you're 90. But someday they'll have no choice, and they'll have to start off in another. So it's a character, and there's going to be different takes on it. But I like I said, I'm excited for this direction. I've been watched another episode of the Penguin today, because we're caught up, and there's another episode on tonight. We're recording this on a Sunday, and that's pretty exciting, but it's very grounded. There's nothing super going on.
Sopranos. It's
just
Sopranos.
another-
Yeah. In Gotham.
Yeah, it's very mobbish drama, and your big bad is the mother from How I Met Your Mother. She's very scary.
Oh yeah, I'm almost done with that first episode. I've like sat down watch parts of it. I'm almost done with it. I read Oswald's mom. I'm like, ooh, she's a bad mofo.
I know, big time, no doubt.
And then the
Go ahead,
Luke.
Well, I was gonna say it's really neat to me because I was just talking about how we had some really good versions of, in the Snyder verse, the Gunn verse, and the Reeves verse versions. And when it comes to like these characters you're talking about from the Penguin, which is in Matt Reeves' universe, Gotham, this show actually gave us a very good Oswald.
Oh yeah,
for me, I thought
Yeah.
they did a very good job.
Right,
That was a very good
agreed.
Riddler. Like Gotham had a lot of problems, but it was essentially the CW version of this.
But it was on Fox. But yes,
right. But I mean, like that scaled down TV friendly version of Sopranos and / Penguin.
But Gotham had a little bit more whimsy at times. Where like I love what they went for, because every once in a while they do something really serious, and the other time they'd be like, "What are they doing next?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it was neat to see because
Yeah,
to inhabit these characters, to Charlie's point about how they all come around. So we've seen interpretations of the Riddler before. We've seen interpretations of Penguin before. Like Danny DeVito's was unrivaled amazing. Then you had the Gotham show's version. And even like the way back in the 60s, that one was really cool. And so now to see this one in the Reeves verse, it makes me, to loop it all back, that much more excited to see what they do with their Bane, with their Deathstroke, because we have seen so many good interpretations of these characters.
Yeah.
What we haven't gotten in like on screen with Batman though is more of the fantastical Bat villains, like where it's a little playing more like you can expect really over the top things because he's part of the world of Superman and Green Lantern and things like that.
Yeah.
You do get to play with like not everything's grounded, because you want Batman to be prepared to take down a dark side, right? You want him to be like he's experienced before.
That's what they were going for, I think, with Snyder versus Nightmare. And we didn't get to see the execute on the Vision, but that's what they were trying to go for, was this guy that can, next to Superman and Wonder Woman, fight Doomsday. They wanted that element. And my favorite,
he's got a plan for everybody.
My favorite part of Snyder's Justice League was when he's talking to Aquaman, and he goes, "Dressed like a bat," and he goes, "It's worked for 20 years in Gotham." And it's like, in this universe, he does go alongside all these fantastical heroes. And so I am excited what James Gunn does with this, because he's done some good things, taking outrageous characters with Guardians and putting them next to grounded and crazier. You know?
And have it all homogenized. Absolutely. Well, cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it up with this is the horse we've beaten almost into glue. That's right. We're talking about Star Wars, because I did read a headline from a couple of days ago. Back in January, we were told season 2 of Ahsoka. now it's been kind of confirmed that it's going into production in January. But I do love the first paragraph of this list I posted. It said, Star Wars fans quickly losing faith in Kathleen Kennedy's vision for the franchise and her apparent inability to get a new movie into theaters. Happy with Dave Filoni coming along, whatever it is. So, I mean, let me posit to you this, to you guys. Todd, I know where you stand on a lot of things related to Star Wars, but Luke, let me wrap to you. Is Star Wars have they just ground it to a halt? Is it toast? Is there hope?
Yeah, there's totally hope. I was not a fan of The Acolyte or a couple other
bad.
of the
No,
series,
yeah.
but I loved Obi-Wan. I loved Ahsoka. And so I feel much like DC and much like Marvel, because Marvel's had a lot of missteps as well. It's a matter of, what do you want out of it? What are you expecting when you go into it? Because I really did love. I will down there. I loved Obi-Wan. I thought they did such a
Yeah.
good job with it. I loved Ahsoka.
Yeah,
Such a good
I
job
love
with
this
it.
stuff. Yeah, very, very much so. And coming out of
Like,
Rebels, which came from Disney,
yeah.
and it was wonderful. But specifically, even looking at the films, because this article does go on and talk a little bit about, it was going to be get another season of Mando and get the movie. Now it's going to be just the movie. So
Mhm.
they're pinning a lot of hopes on what will be over 5 years. In 2026, it'll be 7 years
So
since there has been a Star Wars film.
So I want to. There's a couple aspects of that I think really are frustrating and awesome at the same time. One, I think they did a disservice to some of our characters by giving them backstory. It was dope when Boba Fett was just this badass that stood toe
So
to toe
true.
with Vader.
So
And
true.
then when we found out, oh, he might be a good guy. No, let him be nebulous and bad, because
Yeah.
that is a cooler thing. The counterpoint is that we're now getting to explore some of the characters that we, in the most recent trilogy, in the sequel trilogy, like, we need more Rey to understand it. And I'm looking at Adam Driver's career. We're gonna get some more Kylo. Like, let me just tell you,
Yeah.
he says he's not coming back. Yes, he is. Okay, they
Yeah.
all come back, and
They do all come back. It's very true.
right. And so I'm all for the new movies to exist, but I think what they need to do is, and I think Disney is learning this lesson harshly, as Thunderbolts does what it does, and a couple other of their projects are just kind of mediocre. I think they're learning, okay, we can't make it for the sake of making it. Boba Fett taught us a lesson. I think Agatha all the way. I haven't watched it yet. I'm excited to, but I think it's getting some backlash here and there. I really thought Acolyte was bad.
Yeah, I
Andor,
totally agree.
very
Totally agree.
divisive. So I think they're having to learn, we can't make it because it's Star Wars and it does well. In the video game space, Charlie, I know that's not your realm, but Ubisoft just did this with a Star Wars game. They made it, didn't finish it, put it out because it's Star Wars, and now they're getting backlash. So I think people
I think I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, they're tiring of this because of this.
Right.
DC Comics has been unable to learn this lesson in the last 10 years.
Right.
And it's like yet another flop on their hands with Joker 2, which should never have existed, nor should Joker.
Yeah, I'm out, Todd, and I hate to break it to you, but I don't think that's a movie I'm going to see. I'm not interested.
I might see it out of curiosity, but it's the movie nobody wanted.
Yeah,
I
mean, that's absolutely true.
I'm not into it. So we were going to go on Friday, and I canceled, and I'm just like, I'm good.
It's not a better priority. Yeah, I mean, no one. Yeah, the Joker is a weird one because it was a surprise success. Didn't work for a lot of people. It did work for some people. And it's kind of sad. It's a very sad moment because that was the last time we had Bobby Pauls on a podcast. So we talked about the Joker, and we enjoyed it because it was far different than anybody expected. That character to go. But it is interesting with Star Wars. What's out there that's confirmed is not much in the TV realm. Like, we have Ahsoka season 2 and then Skeleton. That's it.
And
nothing
Andor.
else is confirmed.
Andor
Andor,
and
that's already done. That's going to end. We don't know if Skeleton Crew will do well or not. And then we know that Acolyte got canceled.
And asking for it.
Well, yeah.
You don't want to see Star Wars in the suburbs, Luke? Come on. Everybody wants to see Star Wars. It's a Goonies. It's an Explorers movie. So I'm okay with them trying new things.
Yeah, in fairness to the who's asking for a question, really, nobody's really asking for something brand new. But but like Todd said, they've got to take a stab. They take a stab with the Acolyte, and as people, the people who loved it, of which those people do apparently exist, want to say, oh, it's the bad press that killed it and whatever it is. And we've covered this extensively, not only here, but over my talk with Mark over on Holocron. Nobody watched it. So lowest rated program in all of Disney Plus for Marvel and Star Wars properties. People didn't like it. So, and it cost $250 million to make, was it 6 episodes or 8 episodes? No, I can't remember. It was extraordinarily expensive, and the ROI on it was beyond below in the toilet. So,
Yeah.
you know, who knows what it's going to be like with, I still want to call it Skeleton Key, but it's Skeleton Crew. But you don't know. You don't know if it's going to be good. You don't know who it's going to click with. We're going to find that out in December, you know, when it drops. But yeah, they've got to try new things as far as stuff people are asked for. Yeah, people want to see more Andor, people who liked it. People, you know, want to see the Mando, the Grogu-Lorian movie, because people love Grogu and people dug Mando, even though that show, as we've said, is kind of a matter of declining returns. It didn't get better. It got less exciting the closer to its end. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they could really change, but Luke, to your point, lessons to be learned.
I think Star Wars is at a point where they can't just cater to the core fans, because at that point, even the core fans are kind of like, they don't even know what they want with Star Wars, to be honest.
Yeah.
So how do you bring back the mainstream that basically spent $1 billion to see the sequel trilogies?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do something where you'll get them back in the seats for a new Star Wars experience that they can't get at home. And that's where they're going to make their money. And I don't know what that is, because quite honestly, if they do something completely new, that might not work. And if they do something too safe, that might not work either. So I don't know. They're in a really tough spot.
Yeah, they don't know either. They're petrified, which is why they can't agree on a project to put out. So I don't know. It feels like, you know, Mandalorian might be a safe bet because of Baby Yoda. Let's face it. Who doesn't love Baby Yoda?
I guess the question is, do we get a good Green Lantern movie before we get another like high-end Star Wars movie that everybody loves? That's the question.
It's a $64,000 question. So I don't know. Obviously, you know, I do Holocron with Mark. Mark is high and I'm kind of low when it comes to stuff. You know, Mark is way into the lore, and he loves stuff that even I can't dig my head into.
He's into Luke?
I don't know if he's into I don't know if he's into Luke. I'm not speaking for him. But I'm somewhere in between Todd and Mark when it comes to Star Wars stuff, where Todd's down here, I'm like right here, and Mark might be a little bit up here. So we're good balance for each other. So I know that certainly when it comes around to talking about probably even I'm going to call it the Skeleton Key again, but by the time we finally get around to the movies, I know we'll have Todd on to talk about that and slice it up. So, all right. Well, with that, the news, she ends. Todd, time for me to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. We are due down at the nastiest bar here in Coastal City. That would be called the Geek Easy. I order up that nasty cab. We get in it. The nasty radio is on, playing this lovely commercial.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So, Luke, beyond video games, what have you been watching and reading or
Let's
doing?
see. A lot, actually. My wife and I started spooky season in September because October is our busiest month for the both of us.
We did that too. Started a little
Yeah.
early, yeah.
So I started in September before things got too busy, and I've watched a lot. I want to list it and then loop me back in what you want to talk about. Okay. We watched
for it.
all
Yeah.
the Fear Streets on
Ooh.
Netflix for the first time.
Intense.
The Goose Bumps 1 movie, as well as the Disney Plus show. I watched The Fog, of course. Disney's Haunted Mansion, the newest one.
Oh, I haven't seen
Terrifier's.
that.
I'm liking it a lot. I'm liking it
Yeah.
a lot. Terrifier 1 and 2, hilarious.
Okay. Talk about that
Friday
last
the
week.
13th, Final Cut, and then I'm currently in a rewatch of the Nightmare on Elm Street, all because,
Ooh.
you know,
Yeah.
close your ears. I've been playing a video game called Dead by Daylight that features all those killers, so I've been having a good old time.
They have
Nice.
like Freddy Krueger and people like that in a video game.
Krueger, Myers,
Scream,
Scream,
right?
yeah, Ghostface,
No
some of
kidding.
the Asian ones from like not The Grudge, she's coming.
We
couple
watched that
others.
one, The Grudge. We watched that one a couple of weeks ago. Had not seen
I
it
think
before.
was Ash from Army of Darkness
Ash is
or
in
Evil
there.
Dead in there too?
Do you
Yep.
fight them like a la like Capcom Street Fighter style? Like
No. The premise is that you are 4 survivors trying to repair generators and get out while the killer hunts the 4 of you. So it's a
that's
4v1
fun.
game. It's very
I-
fun.
It's
like
portals, right? Is that what it is, Luke? You're trying to get a portal generator or just trying to escape? I can't remember what
No, you're just
the
trying to-
generators are for.
The generators bring light, and then you're trying to open a door,
Oh.
and then you run out the door and you escape.
Got it.
Very, very low tech. That's awesome. Yeah, we have, and Todd knows, we have a regular spooky season checklist that is a series of selections, and we don't try to watch them all necessarily, and we don't watch the exact same ones every year, though some we come back to, like Rocky Horror or Friday the 13th, the first one. You know what I mean? So, have to do it. But I have a new job. I'm traveling this week with April to something for her job. We're going to Austin, Texas. So our watching stuff gets interrupted, but we do the best we can.
Okay. I'm going to bring us back to Friday the 13th, Luke, because quite honestly, I'll be honest, I don't know if I've actually ever seen one. Because I've seen so many clips and things. In my mind, I'm like, I get it. But I'm like, but there's like been a billion of them. I have seen Freddy versus Jason, which I love to pieces, which I would love to watch again. But other than that, I know Jason went to hell. Jason went to space. Jason went to New York. I mean, Jason's been everywhere.
Yeah, he's the Willie Nelson of the horror franchise. The Friday the 13th, the first one, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, is one of April's favorites. So that always gets watched. Yeah. No, that's I'm sorry. I said Friday the 13th. I meant Nightmare on Elm Street, which is what we were just talking about. That's the 40th anniversary of that. That's one of April's favorites. So we did.
Got it. Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
That's the series I'm closest to is Nightmare on Elm Street, but not Friday the 13th, because I know that started off with like the first movie was kind of like flim flam because it was like Jason wasn't really the killer, it was the mom, and then it went to Jason. And,
Yeah, and that first one was super low budget. They shot it at some camp in upstate New York, and it's just recruited a bunch of local kids, and it's just very low budget. But it was a huge ROI-wise big smash success, which is why they've made a million other ones.
So of the movies you've watched, which ones would you say like watch and avoid, or where are you at with that?
So anytime you watch an 80s slasher, you're watching it for the camp and the enjoyment. Like it's just a silly thing. So you know that going into any of them, from Halloween to Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. I really like Friday the 13th Final Cut, the one that came out. That's kind of like the remake. I really liked that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that one a lot. I think it ages well. It adapts everything really well. Jason's imposing and scary. I really did not like Evil Dead 1 and 2 and Evil Dead Rise Again, but I haven't watched Army of Darkness. So like,
that's the classic.
I told people I don't like Ash versus,
it's so different than the others, Luke. I think you'll enjoy it because it is definitely different. Yeah.
I love the Halloween series. So those Myers is my favorite. And I thought the most recent trilogy was actually very good, you know, as a whole. With the first one, the 2018 one being just elite.
That was
amazing.
Yeah, we walked through all that in real time. I think that as a consensus, it was a sharp decline. With obviously the greatest bit was in the last movie, watching 65-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis get into a knockdown drag out in her kitchen with
She
fire.
Well,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she won. Yeah, well, two old people fighting. It's like Vader and Obi-Wan at the end of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, Final Cut, you'd recommend that?
I would recommend that one. I will always recommend the 2018 Halloween. I really did enjoy the new Haunted Mansion, the Fear Street movies, the Goose Bumps series, the Disney Plus one. You could skip it. I don't think it was that great.
Okay.
Okay.
But then, so I want to can I talk about Terrifier real quick?
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, it was touched upon by our guest last week.
Our guest last week was really great. She is big and terrific lady. She was awesome guest.
Yeah.
She really went deep. She does focus on horror content. But the Terrifier is a unique entity that I'm just not sure if I'm ready for.
Very unique. I do not typically do horror. I'm just in a phase. My wife watches it all the time. This is just a phase for me. But much to my consternation, my students were like, "Have you seen Terrifier?"
Oh God, middle school
And I was
kids.
like, "No." And then of course he came to Call of Duty, and I was curious and I wanted to watch it, and so I watched the 1 and 2. And I'm not a gore person. Like Saw is not fun for me. That's not I don't enjoy that. I enjoy camp and slashers and silliness. And Terrifier is very gory and very fake. And so there's this weird dichotomy because like it's brutal and it lacks any explanation short of this is a crazy clown. And you don't know what's supernatural, though there are elements. You're not 100% sure. And I really enjoy the character Art the Clown, which is the one you see on the covers. Fascinating, interesting, but also these movies are bad and you know it. And like some of it's unnecessary. Like the first movie, a woman's hanging nude upside down and he chops her down the middle.
Fascinating.
Just to make the audience uncomfortable. Like he could have killed her 6 ways from Sunday and he's like, I'm going to go down the middle with her legs open. And it's just
I take my half down the middle.
Yeah, they call that akimbo.
Yeah, well, and like she's alive all the way until you get to her neck, and it's like no, like it's very cheesy, cheap.
Okay,
but there is a charm to them in that horror B movie realm.
Yeah,
I would recommend it only if you just really love like the slasher movies, the horror movies where like you get into Ghostface or Myers or Jason or Freddy, where they're the draw. But if you want like a horror movie, it's not a horror movie. It's just
slasher.
It's just
gore fest.
Yeah, like a cartoonish. Yeah,
it's very cartoonish. Yeah.
So one quick question about Art the Clown. Obviously, he's very iconic in his eyes, so that's been like the big thing because it's like you can pick him out in a lineup of like just he stands out. Is he a silent antagonist?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so silent.
Yeah, my favorite horror movie is It, where that clown speaks and it's the psychological
Pennywise,
right?
And Art is not at all like that. Art is silent, stares.
Wow.
His physical acting almost like a mime, and in no way is Art scary to me, whereas Pennywise is just bone chilling. For me. So,
So he needed some quips and some funny jokes like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, right.
I think he just needed more psychological elements.
Okay.
Like
is there a backstory?
It's nonsensical to my knowledge because he was a character in a mini anthology and he was a background character, but so popular they gave him his own movie. That movie is streaming free everywhere because it's so good, bad, good.
Bad, good.
And so like
good, bad, good.
It's just not good writing, but it's such a compelling character.
Yeah.
And so like it's this weird, strange. Everything I'm saying to you is non-exaggerant. So if you ever are to watch it, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, he's not putting the cart before the horse. Like I'm being very serious. It's bad and good because it's bad, but also nonsensical and dumb. And
didn't Samuel Jackson once say personality goes a long way because like pigs are smarter than dogs?
Pigs are smart. Yeah, I don't eat dog either.
Well, awesome! I love this. I will be putting this all in the show notes so people can check that out, and I will definitely be checking out Friday 13th, the Final Cut, because I'm just looking for like an entry point that is entertaining.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. What
Very
you got,
cool.
Todd?
So thanks to a friend hooked me up with AMC Plus. So thank friend. Won't talk about him in his name. But Shudder is an amazing service if you like horror, because they do originals, they do documentaries, they get like fairly recent stuff too. It's fairly cheap, but it's part of AMC Plus within Shudder. Shudder's there, or you can get it separately. But they do a lot of these great like people talking about the best horror films, best characters, and things like that, which is great. Like the top 100 scares. I love that because they bring in people that not only are part of making film, but also like actors and critics and things like that, which is very fun. So they have a new series that started in September. So they got a jump called Horror's Greatest. It's on Shudder right now. And it is essentially an hour-long documentary series with clips of different movies, and it basically every episode is a different topic. So I believe it's done for the season, but the ones that are out there are, first one was called Tropes and Cliches was the focus. So very cool, because they go through all different tropes and cliches of horror, which is very fun. They next was giant monsters, so like kaijus, different things like that, the history of giant monsters. Very, very cool. The next episode I have not seen yet, Japanese horror, then horror comedies, and then Stephen King adaptations. So I just think these are fun. They're great back, just something to listen to as well. You don't necessarily have to watch them. It can be background noise, but something, especially if people aren't really, they want to know more about horror, but maybe a little bit shy. I think these are great. I love them. Yeah. They're an hour long. My wife is not a big horror fan, but she was interested and watched with me. And she's like, this is really good the way they do it. They get like all these different people you wouldn't have expect to be on there, like Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son, who has done some different things, and they get different actors, comedians too, which I think is great. So yeah, check out Horror's Greatest. It's really, really good. And when you're in Shudder anyways, look around, because they've got fun stuff out there. They've got some new releases, and one of our Shocktober, the last week I believe, will be a movie that's available on Shudder. So check it out.
Well, look at that. Bonus. Yeah, I enjoy docos. More as time goes by, kind of how the sausage is made. So yeah, I'm kind of into that. All right. Well, the last of the things you mentioned was Stephen King adaptations. And I kind of have the tale of two of the same story here. So on Thursday over on Max, a new version of Salem's Lot came out. Stephen King book from 1975 was made into a TV miniseries in 1979, which I'll talk about on the back half here. But first and foremost, talk about the new adaptation. Your star is Lewis Pullman, who is just should change his name to Bob, because that's how he's making his money. He was Bob in Top Gun Maverick. He's going to be Bob in the Thunderbolts. But he's Bill Pullman's son, the president. That the most inspirational presidential speech you've ever heard in your life is not real, but it's from Independence Day, and it's delivered by Bill Pullman. But we have the story follows a townie who is coming back to I always tell April, I said, the Stephen King story. So small town in Maine, you have a crooked sheriff, and you have a disgraced clergyman, and that's exactly what this has. Though really the sheriff wasn't that crooked, but he was played by Bill Sadler, who is famous for showing up in Stephen King movies, and of course he was the bad guy in Die Hard 2. And you had a smattering of other characters. The first kid, who is the famous vampire who scratches at the window, is that April had to look this up. He is the twin brother of the kid who is Homelander's son on The Boys. Twin brother. Yeah, that was very weird.
Oh, in the new one. Yeah, okay.
In the new one. Yeah, no, I'm just talking about the new one right now. But anyway, super cool story. They have a great sequence that happens in a drive-in closer to the end of the film, which I'm not sure if that ends up in the original miniseries, which I'll talk about in a minute here. But I absolutely love this. This was a great capper. It's just under 2 hours, so it's feature length, easy access. Watch it with the lights off.
Talk about the new one.
Yeah, talk about the new one. Yeah, great vampire stuff, and again available on Max. So highly recommend. The old one and something else called Return to Salem's Lot, which I didn't really dig into.
That was a Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe is in that one in like the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that was a Rob Lowe one, but the 1979 one was there is 2 90-minute segments put together into a single TV movie, which means it's essentially a third as long as the movie I watched. So there's a lot of weird little details in there. It's very much of its time. Very jump scare where you're not really seeing the Nosferatu, you're the vampire character, and subplots are fleshed out. A lot of familiar faces. David Soul, who's on Starsky and Hutch, is the male character. Julie Cobb, who is in the mom on Charles in Charge, is one of the young ladies. A young Bonnie Bedelia from Die Hard is the ingenue, the young lady. It was very slow, and by the time we got to middle of it, Max decided it didn't want me to watch it anymore because I would try to restart it and it would just take me back to the screen. It would take me back to the server screen. So I haven't seen the end. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how it ends or if it follows the book. So Todd, Luke, your guy, do you guys have familiarity with Salem's Lot? Have you watched the original?
Nope.
No,
I did watch the original series.
I'm more encouraged to watch the Max one now that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would recommend checking it out. Yeah, definitely. One, it follows a very Stephen King kind of pattern because again, small town in Maine, and there's this character and that character, and even like the naming conventions of the characters are always similar. It's like John something, Ben something, Bill something, but no, despite all of the Stephen King tropes, I think they really nailed it. So yeah, I would totally recommend.
Oh, that's good to hear. Because the original I watched as a kid because it was 1979, so it was on like reruns on like Shocktober on Channel 50, the old UHF channels, and I liked it. Had some iconic visuals like the creature and the kid floating, but it was at its time. It was different for TV because they didn't do a lot of horror on TV back in the day. So I enjoyed it.
I didn't look into it to see if it was, like a primetime special kind of thing or which network showed it. It was, one of the three because that's what we had, back in the day. So it was an ABC, NBC, CBS, one of those. But anyway, yeah, those are both available on Max. And I am curious about the Rob Lowe one. Now, I assume that's the third one I saw. So yeah, but it's spooky. It's spooky season, so now it's the time. All right. Well, with that, we are out of the Geek Easy. Got to get out my Air Qantas app because Hologram Tina and the mutants await us in the land down under to talk about this week's movie, a malfunction of the weather that we like to call The Fog.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The mutants been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, it's Shocktober Week 2. We are doing 1980's The Fog. This is by John Carpenter, a Deborah Hill production, distributed by Avco Embassy Pictures. I don't know if they exist. This was 90 minutes long and a budget of $1 million, made $21.3 million. If you want to join us later, rejoin us and watch this first. I watched this on a service called Fossum, which is on Roku. Right. It's also on Internet Archive, which is weird. And it just was not available in a lot of places. So it was very weird that I found it because I remember thinking like, oh, it's free to watch. In the weirdest places available. So
and of course you can probably visit your local library. There's a good chance they might have it. And I'm quite certain it exists on physical media as well. So
it might. Yeah. And Luke, where did you watch it?
I rented it from Vudu.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Well, that's the other way. Rent it. Yep.
Yeah. And your typical rental is like $4. So it's like, so what?
Yeah. Yeah. You can watch, and actually Fossum, you can watch that on your browser too. And actually there's a Windows app like on your computer. There's a Windows app for it. So that's how I watch it. It was very weird.
Hopefully that's all very, very legal. So I have a question. This is not about John Carpenter, but about Deborah Hill. Is Deborah Hill of any relation to the great Walter Hill, who's made so many other awesome movies that we love, like the Warriors and other stuff from Canon Films, I wonder?
I don't know, but she is John Carpenter's main production buddy. They do everything together. So all of the things that he made, she was producing it, but she produced a lot of other things. But yeah, I couldn't tell. I mean, she was highly famous. Worked on almost everything John Carpenter did, but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at IMDb to see like who she's married to. She died in 2005 of cancer. That's sad.
Oh God, that sucks. So you would liken her to like with Cameron, Gale Ann Hurd before Cameron cheated on her and married little Linda,
or even a Kathleen Kennedy with like Spielberg and Lucas, things like that.
Go.
Yep.
The Gal Friday, as it will, or the right hand woman.
Yep. So this is interesting. This is essentially Carpenter Carpenter's follow-up to Halloween.
Right.
And it included Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, Janet Leigh, who is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, from The Birds. Janet Leigh was in that movie.
The Bird.
John Houseman was in this film. I'm like,
So
who is that?
crazy.
Yeah. Tom Atkins, you've seen it before. He plays like in a lot of things. Halloween 3, he was leading that. So,
Right.
let's see. And then other than that, Hal Holbrook probably is the only other main actor you probably have seen before.
Right.
So this film, it starts with the flashback, or not a flashback, but it starts with a story by John.
That's what I
Houseman.
said. Masterpiece Theater's John Houseman, because isn't that what he's the most famous for? And of course, he was the narrator in the fake Scrooge production in the movie Scrooge with Bill Murray. He was the one sitting there reading it. So
it was the grandfather in Silver Spoons, Charlie.
Oh, there you go.
Luke's like, who are all these old people you're talking about?
How did they get
Halloween 3?
Yeah, how did they even get this dude? I'm sure the answer is money, but still.
Yep. So, had anyone seen this movie before?
No, certainly heard of it. And I'm a big fan of The Mist, or the remake of it more recently, but there's no connection, but it is still Scary Wind.
Yes, and it's based on a book apparently, and there was a remake of this in 2005. So if you look it out there, like Maggie Grace is in it, a lot of like those actors of the time. Exactly. So this story starts off with basically this old sea captain telling these kids a story about essentially the ship crashing and all these souls dying, and essentially this town is there might be a curse of these sailors coming back to enact revenge, and they roll in with the fog. This is in this town of what was it, Amway Bay, or
it was something Bay,
Antonio Bay.
Yeah,
Antonio Banderas Bay.
Antonio Banderas Bay. Yes, exactly.
Banderas, yes. And it was the 100th anniversary of this town's forming in California. There is not an Antonio Bay, but I looked up. It's there is
that too.
Inverness, California, I think is where it was filmed. It was very beautiful, like coastal town outside of San Francisco.
Not Port Royal, but it was something that it was probably 300-400 miles to the north and west of San Francisco. So it's definitely North California.
Yeah. So, with that, we basically get introduced to our initial characters. So we've got the young boy. We find out he is who is listening to the tale, is the son of Adrienne Barbeau, who is a local owner of a radio station that is in a lighthouse.
Right.
That
is only because I noted your question. I think she says at one point she's only on, like, she doesn't work during the day. She does the overnight shift, and then she's off during the day, and then she gets back on. So kind of a shitty schedule that, because she bought it, she'll be doing it for the rest of her life. So great business plan. I like it.
And I quite honestly don't understand what she actually plays, because it's like an eclectic version of
it's just
music that I don't know.
It's elevator music. So Todd, I thought it was right up your alley, because I know you kind of love elevator music.
I don't care what she plays. That voice was
she's having worked in radio and known a lot of those folks. Yeah, she's got it. I couldn't place her at first before she actually appeared on screen, because you heard her doing VOs through people's radios before you saw her. I'm like, oh, Adrienne Barbeau. Wow. And she's doing a character because she switches her voice back and forth. All radio people do that. But yeah, she was great. Anyway.
Yeah, ASMR before it's time. That's what we're getting. Yeah, sweet voice of Adrienne Barbeau. Then we're introduced to, at this point, it's weird. Tom Atkins is driving around, and all of a sudden it's very dark outside. And it's on the darkest road I've ever seen before. You can't see anyone out there. And he runs into a hitchhiking Jamie Lee Curtis. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Not literally.
No, but Luke, this part didn't make any sense, because I'm like, she's in the middle of the darkness, right? And then this road, she's hitchhiking apparently, and it's like
California. Yes.
What would you do in this situation?
Drive my ass right by.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, picking up hitchhikers, I know that was a thing in the 70s. But my God, can you even imagine hitching a ride somewhere or picking somebody up in the world the way that it is today, are you kidding me? You get stabbed in the throat immediately.
Unless Charlie, they're gonna rate you 5 stars on Uber Black.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
true.
Different.
Yeah, exactly.
That is true. That is the form of hitchhiking.
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
right.
hitchhike anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
But it was weird. This road was so dark. I'm like,
Right.
I mean,
Well, let me tell you straight up. So when you guys were like, "Will you watch a horror movie?" I was like, Psh, "I'm in the mood, sure." And you're like, "The Fog." I was like, "God dang." All right. All right.
Oh,
So
I'm committed.
I rent this thing because I like it's one of those moments where it's like, all right, I love Todd Oxtra and Charlie, and they're good people, and
Aw.
Todd's always supportive. I'm gonna do this, and then I start watching it, and I'm like, this is great. And then Jamie Lee Curtis pops up on screen, and I'm like, no way, because I read nothing about it except
Yeah, I
The
didn't know
Fog
either.
1980. So
Yeah.
when she shows up, I did the double, like, wait, is that it? Wait, what?
yes.
And then I started
Because
like
her hair's
piecing
different.
together
Yeah.
Carpenter, Jamie Lee, and when she and she's of course picked up hitchhiking. I feel like you're taking us through the story, canonically or whatever, sequentially, but chronologically. That's the word I wanted.
Yeah.
When they sleep together, I'm like, well, she's gonna die because it's
Yeah.
1980, and if you
that
show
was a
any-
very quick situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you show any nudity or if you have any intimate relations, you're
Right.
gonna die in a horror movie. And so I was like, well, she's gonna die.
And and as Todd says, he's very classically drinking Miller Lite as their cans
the
of
road.
beer on the road, because it's
Yeah.
California, it's out in the middle of the country. There's no
Mhm.
rules.
And he's asked her if she wants a sip. So apparently, if he's drinking it first, there's no roofie in it unless he's
Right.
like tolerant to roofies. But yeah, it was
She's
just so
like,
weird. It was a
"Here,
quick.
drink and drive me."
Yeah, and then the next thing you flash to the shed that he lives in, and they have obviously boned, and they're sitting there having post-coital chit chat and looking at pictures and stuff. Yeah, weird.
And she's a woman without a plan, apparently, because she's been hitchhiking 13 times. And she just like, hey, I'm just going to find my
weird?
way.
Yeah,
It's like, well, I picked it up.
she's on her way to
I like
Canada.
weird.
Yo, she's on her way to Canada. Maybe she's a criminal because she said, "Oh, I came from San Diego," but she says she's on her way to Vancouver. So maybe I don't know. Could be a.
Well, she didn't get very
darker
far
story
then. She's hitchhiked 13 times. She's made it from San Diego to San Francisco.
Oh,
That's a lot of quick trips.
That's pretty far. California is enormous. So yeah, it's far, but it's not like going across the country far. But yeah. But
Let
anyway,
me tell you, I got a thing for these 80s ladies for sure. Because between
Yeah.
the radio voice
80s
and
lady.
Jamie Lee Curtis is there, I'm like,
Yeah.
I see you, John Carpenter. I know what
Yeah.
your game plan is.
well, John Carpenter was married to Adrienne Barbeau when he made this film. I read that. In
Oh,
the
I
trivia
forgot
notes.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting, man. He was a guy, and he composed the music for this too. John
Yeah.
Carpenter composes music. He also plays video games. He's quite the interesting dude, and he likes to make money too. So he's like, I'll do anything if you pay me. So
Yeah, right.
and he's just having a good time. So we do get introduced to that character, but then where things start going awry is we meet the pastor, priest, whatever,
Right.
at the town hall church,
That's
and all of a
Hellenberg,
sudden he notices like he saw something. It was in like the wall.
No, he was just sitting there. So he's sitting at his desk or whatever, and a
Oh,
piece
that's
of rock
right.
just goes kaboom, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay." And he pulls out a book, but he doesn't tend to look what's like also in the wall, because we don't get back there until all the way at the end of the movie when we see what else is in the wall. And then he from there he starts to read this book. It was written by his grandfather exactly 100 years ago, 1880.
Wait. So I've got a question. So if he's a priest,
I think I know the same question, and April laughed at me when I asked it. Go ahead.
how did he have kids?
That was my question too. Not
Luke,
a Catholic.
any thoughts on this?
Not a Catholic priest, so not in
We
my
know,
space.
guys.
Yeah. I think we know.
Oh, then we know.
Well, what is it? The bee pollinates the flower, and
There weren't a lot of paternity tests back then. Oh well.
Not for nothing, he's a terrible priest. This guy's an idiot.
absolutely. I
The
mean,
whole
yeah,
movie.
yeah, right. And he's
He's got a great little mini bar next to him, which is perfect.
right, and he does have a very well lit. The candles always stay lit too, which is amazing. That is one thing I noticed throughout this entire film. No matter what, and we obviously get to the point where we've identified the fog as the villain, but as the fog rolls in and the power gets knocked out, everything's still, and it's a big contrast from the way films are today, where everything is so super dark in TV as well. You got to turn all the lights off in your house, be watching it after the sun goes down to see anything, like watching Daredevil, to see anything. Everything is incredibly well lit in this entire movie after after the power station blows up. So
even the fog is lit up very well.
It does. Yeah, the fog is so powerful that it destroys the power station. It's blowing windows out for no reason. And Todd, what comes with the fog, both offshore and in town? What's the fog doing?
So it's interesting because our first appearance of the real fog is to it's a fishing vessel that is with there's three fishermen who are essentially part of their job is just drinking heavily and listening to the radio.
Oh, I will tell you, one of the three of them, I picked this out, was the bum on the park bench in Back to the Future, who says "crazy drunk driver" when Marty comes back from 1955 and drives into the adult theater. He says "crazy drunk driver." Read the bum, looked it up.
So Luke, we are introduced to our first presence of these dark, the fog and some of their residents. So what was your feeling of this scene where it was the first real bit of horror?
How do I put this? I liked their horror aspect, the semen, for lack of that's
women and semen don't mix.
It's true. But like the fog, I guess because it was such a silly concept, I did not find it scary, but like I liked it because it was fun.
Like
but
M. Night,
really wish
I was thinking M. Night.
We needed a villain. We needed a bad thing, or like the captain is showing up regularly.
Right.
Would have been a better accompaniment to the normal, I guess you would say, fog that was coming through.
I'm reminded very expertly of M. Night Shyamalan's Was It The Happening, where it was the wind that would make people, psychotic and violent. So, yes, this was but it was the unseen killer. But this was very much the scene killer. But yeah, you're right. There was no focal. I mean, we only really find out in the end what their motivation was when you finally. Well, yeah. But anyway,
we start. Yeah, that's the weird part. But this sequence, basically, the fog. You can see the fog machine essentially behind the door because you can see the fog. I mean, it was very
tightly under the door. Just
very. Reminder: $1 million were spent in this film. So at this point, all the electronics aboard get broken by the fog. I'm not sure what that power was, why they took out the electronics. Never explained, but that's what happens. And then you start seeing essentially these. I guess ghost pirates is the best way to put it. Zombie pirates in the fog.
I like their eyes, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, like their eyes. You never really see a close-up of them or, their makeup. I think there's one scene where we maybe see a close-up. Yeah. And then essentially they just start. Well, one thing, they're very kind. For the majority of the time, they are knocking before they come in.
It's manners that are found uncommon even in that time. So yeah, that's nice. But they kind of knock for no reason because they'll just knock the door down anyway. Mm-hmm. But they're giving you a chance to come to the door, like the little lady who's watching Adrienne Barbeau's son.
Yeah.
That she opens up because you have to open a door, wander around in the fog in a circle, turn your back to the door, walk back through so that an arm can come out and grab you. That's the way that works.
Yeah. So we get the sequence where essentially these ghost pirates take out the whole crew. And that cuts us to like kind of the first thing. The fog recedes and Jamie Lee Curtis thinks she saw fog when she was broadcasting, but not sure. Yeah. And we also have her cohort who is he just the town meteorologist? Is that his main job?
And trying to hit on her and failing.
Could not tell.
Yeah. I guess I'd have to. I didn't really drill down on anybody else's job because there was the society lady, or maybe she was the mayor, who was played by Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, and her she had a driver who was and that was one thing I noted.
Her assistant.
There was so much shared casting between this and Halloween. It could have just been a sequel because the assistant was one of the girls that was one of Jamie Lee's friends. I think the first one who got killed. Yeah.
Oh, and her name, Nancy Loomis.
Nice. And Loomis
was thinking Professor Loomis, right?
Exactly. Loomis was another one of the characters. So
I'm
sorry, I was gonna say, I wonder if this was before they started making, because remember, early Halloween movie era, they didn't want Michael Myers to be the main. They wanted Halloween to be like anthology movies that just came out at Halloween.
Yep.
Right.
And so maybe that was their goal, was for this to be somehow in the universe.
Fog would
the
be
way
Halloween.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Yeah,
Fogiverse. Yeah.
Maybe that was the idea. And then, of course, after Season of the Witch, which was Halloween 3, they were like, we need Michael Myers back.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he's bankable. Yeah, not a weird
Right.
company that makes weird masks and has a weird
Right.
song. Yeah, but he did bring Tom Atkins back for that. So it's like he likes his cast of characters.
Right,
I mean,
right.
we've seen them throughout time, which is really cool. But yeah, we do get the meteorologist who's basically sending Jamie Lee or Adrienne Barbeau, like, here's the weather forecast, even though she can see it. So we do get a relationship there. And by the way, I laughed at this. The commute to the lighthouse that Adrienne Barbeau has to take, that's a long walk. I mean, even when she parks.
Yeah, and that's legit. That lighthouse is obviously a real setting there in, Cape Port, whatever that area is. 165 steps. 100 to get down to work to and from. So, this is back in the days before Apple Watches, but you'd be hitting your 10K just walking to work. I mean, even after driving. So it's pretty good.
So we do get like some of the different parts. So we do meet the lady of the town. I don't know. Maybe she's head of the historical society.
That's what I was trying to figure
that
out.
is Janet Leigh. Yeah.
Right.
And her big thing is she needs to do this big 100-year ceremony, and nothing can go wrong. And I love the relationship between her and Nancy Loomis, her assistant, where it's like they're bitching at each other the whole time. I love it. They both embrace it. And I'm like,
yeah, you're dumb, but you're dumb, and that makes you smart. Kind of.
I can only imagine that's like Trump and his people. You suck. No, you suck. You suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I know you suck, but I need you.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Yeah. So we do get back full circle, because we find out that the fishing boat is not being seen. So then I guess Tom Atkins' job is he's a ship inspector. I don't know.
Yeah, I never did figure it out driving around.
The boat out 2 days ago, guys.
Yeah.
It was clean. So then he goes out to this boat with Jamie Lee Curtis, because apparently she's got nothing better to do.
Yeah, she's just there join lockstep. She's like, I'm going to stop hitchhiking and hang out here in this town where people are dying because of the fog or whatever. Okay.
I'll eventually kill you and steal your truck. I don't know. Right. Maybe she never get a chance to do that. She's like the hitcher. But then they go to the boat, and that's when they find they find the boat. It's essentially they can't find anyone. It's been disheveled, and they find bodies that essentially look like they've been waterlogged for, like they said, months. And all the electronics are broken. So they end up bringing back the one body. They didn't find any more bodies, right? They only found the one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the other ones were missing. So they brought back the one guy who was really waterlogged, and then his body got up and walked for some reason. And when they were in the morgue, now I can't remember why that happened.
Yeah, and I don't know how big this town was, but it had a morgue. They had a coroner, and basically they think it's weird and silly that they found they found like seawater everywhere, and even though it was clean, and they hadn't been dead that long, but he's been said, oh, he looks like he's been under the sea for a billion years. He's got no eye sockets, like fish have ate in his eyes. So that we have, and then we have the first kind of like supernatural. Now, remind me, we did have an occurrence where Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins were almost attacked, right? When they were in bed, right?
The knocking. There was knocking. But again, in that case, the knocking happened. They were like, well, nobody's home. Okay. Do. They get back in the fog. It carries into the next door. And it's like they're Jehovah's Witness. You know what I mean? They're just like, do you have a moment for our dear Lord and Savior, the fog?
Because so obviously we got the fog coming into the town area.
Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas. So then we get that, and then they do we do find out more, I think, at that point about the book and the book to the
curse, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the curse is, Todd, it was, you learn the story about the leper colony, right? So 100 years ago, there was a colony of lepers that really wanted to settle somewhere, and the preacher was instrumental in making sure that they didn't find a spot because he was prejudiced against lepers. And it was a tale of our time of tolerance, that when you aren't tolerant, you get ghosts on a 100-year interval. So
So he killed the seamen or hired someone to kill the seamen who were going to transport the lepers. Is that what it was?
now, you know what? Now I can't remember. Luke, help us out.
Somebody was hired to take them to a colony that they wanted to
Yes.
do, but I don't think that's explored.
Right.
And I have no idea how to answer your question because
I know.
I watched it.
Isn't
I
this
don't think they
bad?
said it.
I think it was Friday night we watched it, or maybe it was Thursday we watched it. And you're right. I'm sketchy on the details of why the fog is transporting the spirits of these dead sailors, and they want to murder everybody. I can't exactly remember why. I just know it was 100 years hence, and the guy who is a grandfather of the preacher did them wrong, and now they want revenge. That's what's going on.
And apparently the lepers were rolling in the dough, so they were paying the pirate, the ship who's going to transport in gold. So they got this gold. And the lepers, we never know what happened to lepers, but I mean, lepers aren't known for long lives.
I was going to say, Todd, that plot line was falling apart. It's falling apart.
I'd love to read the original book.
Up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the great part right there. So we do find out that basically it's a life for a life. There's 6 people that have to be killed. So we know that 3 were killed on the fishing vessel. Then at that point,
the old lady.
Well, we get the old lady, I believe, was it was very quick succession because it really elevated quickly. The ceremony was going to happen, and then the priest comes forward and says, "We can't have it because I'm to blame. My parents, this is all a lie, and everything we've done." They said, "Don't worry about that. That's going to be fine." And then the fog just starts rolling in the night of, right? I mean, it starts rolling in, and I liked it because it was almost like, can you just drive through the fog? Because it seemed like no one wanted to drive through the fog.
It was like the fog itself wasn't the issue, though obviously it's hard to see through, but the fog materializes ghost pirate guys that can kill with their bare hands, or they have those hooks like in I know what you did last summer, like the hook guy.
Ice picks.
Ice picks. There you go. And I mean, so like you said, now the society lady, Janet Leigh, and her assistant are taking refuge in the church because the church, the church is not really safe ground because that's the climax of the film anyway, is the ghosts are in the church. So,
well, I guess we missed the part where, so we get a couple along the way this is happening. We find out the fog is really happening. The DJ basically says, "Hey, this is bad things are happening because my son, who was out looking in the water, thought a coin that turned into a sign or the side of the boat. So now my son is a creepy kid. I took the wood from him of the sign of the Dane or whatever it was called. And she took it up to the lighthouse, and it started leaking water and then set the whole thing on fire because of
and
it all works after that still.
Yeah. Right. And I do love it. Made me crack up thinking about radios in the old days. She had that case of 8 tracks, which are commercials. That's what they plugged in when it was a commercial break. Yeah, what those are.
That was the best part. She had her little tape deck, and as she was walking the lighthouse, she just started playing and listening to radio promos. I'm like,
come down to Branson Chevrolet, blah 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 blah. Yeah,
exactly. KAB and all these promos. I'm like, who's actually sponsoring your show? This is like the smallest town in the world, and
where
how to make money? I don't know.
She just plays elevator music. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So all right. So where are we then? I know we're all over.
We're at the point where the fog is really coming in, and she really gets worried because the meteorologist buddy, who I don't know if they have a past. I don't know. There's a lot of double entendres and stuff with them.
Right.
He's like, well, the fog's coming in. Oh, something's happening. Oh my God. I'm going to show them what for. They won't fool with me. And he goes out to check on what's going on. And he's the 4th victim is our buddy, the meteorologist.
Probably the little old lady would have been 4. He must have been 5. So and so when we get into the deadlock at the end, when the ghosts are in the church, they're obviously they're also at the lighthouse and attacking Adrienne Barbeau when she's trying to escape. So the sixth victim is yet to be determined at that point.
Well, yeah, because so basically at this point she knows it's real. She's just sending out a summary, basically saying, "Hey, someone get my son. He's with this lady. Save him." So Tom Atkins and
I do
Jamie
find
Curtis to the rescue.
I do find it's really incredible, going back to the DJ lady, that she's giving blow by blow of what areas of town are affected and when. And she's
How does she know?
She's looking across the bay and saying, well, they're coming up East 4th Street, but don't turn on 8th Street because you really need to take the such and such old trail back to the 101 or something and stop at the old church if you've gone too far. So I'm like, you're right. How could she? It's like 2 miles away. How could you be like,
not only that, Luke, but did you notice that the lighthouse wasn't? It was down. It was down.
Yeah,
it was not
she
up.
went down the steps to get there. It's
Yeah.
like,
you're
where's
right.
the elevation here.
Yeah,
And it wasn't very tall.
She had to drive up a mountain to walk down the steps. That's
It was the shortest lighthouse in history. It was essentially a staircase up, and that was it.
Well, apparently it didn't really serve a purpose because the only boat in this, the guys were dead.
It was very weird. So then Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis saves her son, although Mrs. Peabody, Miss Bottoms, whatever, gets killed as well. And then they save him. So yes. And then basically she tells everybody, the only safe place is the church.
Which is hilarious. It's not safe at all. But really what we found out, so obviously, like I said, the society lady plus her assistant are there in the church with the preacher. He tells the whole story. And then Jamie Lee and Tom Atkins show up. So everybody's in the church together of the majority of the cast except Adrienne Barbeau. And the kid is with them. Because you're right. They effected a rescue of the kid. And there was a very tense sequence during that where Jamie Lee is behind the wheel of the truck and she's stuck in the mud. But I'm like, how did she get stuck in the mud when they just pulled up? How did it get stuck? But
he's able to run out the back, but the fog's on the front. It's like, that's not how
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
The fog stepped around the side. So at the essence of it, yes, they do get away. Then they get to the church. So we have all of our characters, with the exception of Adrienne Barbeau, are at the church. And that's when the preacher finally says, maybe I should see what else is behind this wall. And what he digs out is, and this is another one that reminds me, of famous preachers. There is all the gold that was accepted 100 years ago to bribe the ship captain or whatever was melted down into this giant cross that's about 2 or 3 feet long. And then he's like, well, this is what the ghosts want. And that's when we finally get, Luke, to your point, the main villain, who is the sea captain. He just looks like the guy he looks like the guy, Long John Silver. He looks like that guy from that logo with the ratty hair and the red eyes. Okay, Long John Silver doesn't have red eyes, but you get my point.
So Luke, so tell us what happens at the very end.
Yeah, wrap it up.
What happens and makes this all worth watching?
Well, the ending is not what makes this worth watching.
Okay.
Throw that out there. What makes this worth watching is Adrienne Barbeau and
not Balboa. It's Adrienne Barbeau,
Rocky's wife. Yes,
Balboa is Rocky's wife. I think what happens is the cross of gold and the preacher are holding on to it and it's glowing and it somehow kills him, and that's what the bad guys wanted. And then all the fog retracts and goes away, and Adrienne's alive because of it, because she almost got killed.
Yeah, it was one of those at the last moment she's struggling with because she has to crawl onto the top, and she's struggling with 2 of the guys and kicking them or whatever. And she does get stabbed, so she got stabbed, but she was fine. She got one of the hooks like right here on her upper, like up on her shoulder. But she struggled. Yeah, struggled with the last dude, and it's one of those like, he's about to get the knife, and then pooh, he's gone. Because back at the church, the gold cross got handed over, and that's what it's kind of like the head at the end of like Tim Burton's Headless Horseman, where Johnny Depp tosses the skull to Christopher Walken, and then we're done, we're good, we're fine, and I'm going back to hell. I'll take Miranda Richardson with me. Thank you.
I'm blanking now. I mean, I'm not sure why, but isn't there like this really great moment it's either the very end or during that sequence where you get to see the captain in his red eyes?
Yes.
And they're standing. I thought that was a great shot.
Totally.
I loved that one shot because
it was like poltergeist. It was like poltergeist. You know what I mean?
Yep. And we did get one moment with Adrienne Barbeau where she was up on the top and she try to attack one, and you get a close up of the face, and it was like wormy and kind of gross.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the only like really like makeup scene that was
Yeah.
needed.
Most detail that you got, absolutely. But at the end of it, and I missed this because I was, the credits were like I was looking down, like, oh well, I was probably looking something up on IMDb because I'm like that. But then April said, "Oh, the ghost came back and they lopped off the priest's head."
Oh, you missed that?
I did.
You missed
that? I did. Yeah.
What about Luke? Did you see that part?
I saw that part, but I think that's the
Okay.
thing I was blanking on.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that
Yeah.
was
Why did it
that
happen?
was your absolute last shot. So
Yeah. So it really wasn't the gold they wanted. They wanted the sixth death, which was the priest's son. So that was really coming to there was a coming to Jesus, of course, and that's what happened.
yes,
And,
and they got-
the question is, though, who gets to keep that badass gold cross?
well, didn't the ghost go off with it? Then again, how do they hold on?
I
to
don't
it?
know.
They're ghosts.
Well, they
What do
left, right? Didn't they like turn into they kind of glowed and went away? Maybe they grabbed it back with them and left.
Yeah, where did it go? You didn't see. So, all right,
Yeah.
I'm going to knock out some trivia, and then we can circle back to giving our final analysis here. So, we talked about a lot of this stuff, but as I said, the lighthouse. It's Point Reyes, by the way, in Marin County, which is 300 steps lead down to the lighthouse. Yes, Adrienne Barbeau patterned her voice after Allison Steele, a female disc jockey from the 1960s, known as the Nightbird, which I think is pretty sweet. Jazz music is used for Stevie Wayne's radio station because the royalties were more affordable than actual rock music.
I love it. Than real music people would listen to.
Yeah, exactly correct. Yeah, just $1 million movie. I thought those were the best bits. I'm just skimming through here. This was the first of only 2 feature films that Janet Leigh and Jamie Lee Curtis were in together, because Janet Leigh comes back in Halloween H2O, which came out in 1998.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, okay.
I know.
Oh, she was really old by then.
Yes, Carpenter. The Absence of Blood was a failed attempt to get a PG rating, but it still was rated R. So, that's it. And again, John Houseman worked for one day and was given a special appearance credit. And it said his scene at the campfire, along with other scenes, was added to pad the running time because it was too short. Because this is 90 minutes, like on the nose.
Okay.
So yeah.
Like 90.
All right. Well, that's it for trivia.
Well,
let's wrap it up.
This movie. Wow.
And
no gore really.
And this one was my pick because I wanted to pick something that was classic that I hadn't seen, that I knew was a classic that we hadn't seen.
Well, it's a Carpenter film, so you can't go wrong with a Carpenter film. Sometimes.
So no gore, just a lot of kind of chintzy suspense. It's more of a suspense film, I guess. All right. So how are we rating this one? 1 out of 10 wormy eyeballs?
Gold crosses.
Gold crosses, yes. All right. So Luke, 1 out of 10 gold crosses. Where do you land? Or C in this case.
And any last thoughts?
5. Like, it was good, but it was old cheesy. So
yeah,
I find that endearing.
Yeah.
So 6.5.
6.5. I like it. And any final thoughts before we hear Todd's rating?
As somebody who did not want to watch The Fog in our horror Shocktober, I left very pleased, very glad that I watched it. I took great joy in seeing all the actors that we mentioned, because it was just such a that's. And so when Todd asked me to come on, I was like, heck yeah, I love Todd. And then it was like, wait a minute. The Fog.
The Fog.
So I'm so happy that I watched it.
And Luke, that's the way I felt about the movie last week. It was a newer film.
We may have to change this up where we let the guest pick one. Maybe that might be a bonus next time we do this.
We'll see. All right, Todd, what's your final analysis and then your rating?
I mean, I really love the tone of these movies. I love 70s and 80s horror just because the feel, the vibe, it's something like there's no CGI at this time. It's great. The music was very fun. And it's funny. I look at the cover of the poster. It's Jamie Lee Curtis, like the main thing.
Right. Of course.
I don't know how much screen time she actually got in this movie.
Right. But she was the, especially after
she was the draw after Halloween. So maybe they were filming The Fog before, like that. Maybe it was done beforehand. Then Halloween came out, and then they released The Fog, maybe. So it's like, we didn't know she was going to be a big deal. Yeah, it could be. But this movie, I don't know about you guys, but every time I was watching this, sad part, I started watching it Friday night, fell asleep. I was tired. So I rewatched it again to see what I missed. And so I did rewatch the whole thing. But this felt like a Scooby-Doo episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was kind of wholesome.
Yeah.
There was no nudity, no blood.
Right.
It was like you said, it was like and so to me it was like it was goofy fun.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot in regards to that, but it really I was never really scared.
Yeah.
I was never really scared in this movie whatsoever. So I'm like, okay, it's more spooky than scary or chilling. Especially after Halloween came out, you think of like, oh, this feels a little bit muted. So I'll give this one a 7 out of 10 just because I liked the world when I was in there. There were so many things I laughed about. Like, wait, they couldn't drive through the fog. Is fog's natural enemy gold or a fast breeze? I don't know.
It's Kieran the Gold. I think it would be a combination of the two. Well, I had the same thoughts. There's nothing to take seriously about this. I mean, but there's nothing to take seriously about Halloween. It's Halloween, the film that preceded it, Carpenter's masterpiece. But it's, as you said, it's fun to be in the world. It's one that I'm glad I finally got to saw because obviously I've seen the title. I don't know that I've seen this particular poster. I think the most common title image, and even the one that's on Fossum, which is where I watched it, is just fog and like some buildings in the background and stuff. So based on that, I like it. And I love the setting. I'm always a big fan of cool and different settings I've never seen before. And I'm not aware of anything else that's ever been filmed in this setting. So it was fun. And it was just very 70s. So I like it. I'm also 7 was the number that I plucked out. So I'll go with the 7 for this as well. Definitely very enjoyable. And I would recommend it for a good giggle. It's a Scooby-Doo with an implied sex scene and a lot of scary wind. So,
this is going to really sound sexist and gross to me, but I'm like, with these very attractive women, the lack of nudity in a horror film of this time is very odd. I mean, it really is. Yes.
I know. Sorry, it's very male. All right. Well, friends, that's the show. Luke, my man, cannot wait to have you back on Code 47, but it was so great to have you here today. Where do people find you out there?
You can find me on socials at Insipid Ghost. And if you're in the gaming space, I host the Xbox Expansion Pass. You are always welcome to check that one out. You will find that I cover Xbox, but I enjoy games of all ilk and of all systems. And so I hope people will be willing to check me out there.
Totally awesome. Mr. Extra.
You can follow me at Threads, at T-Extra, at Secret Friends Unite, our Discord, trying to get more people involved in that group. And also just having a lot of fun on Instagram now, which is weird. You know what? I'm just going to ask for one thing. Zuckerberg, please, could you get some more interoperability between these Instagrams and get some DMs and threads? There's a lot of features they need to do. Easy account switching on the web version. Yeah. Come on, fix it. Fix it, Zuck.
You can do it. You got that money. Hey, you know what? Being on those things keeps you away from X, which is Elon Musk just keeps getting worse. But I digress. I am the same things that Todd mentioned. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Threads as at the C3 THECEETHREE. Having a good time, posting pictures, talking about stuff, sharing news, and having generally a good time. Also, again, our Discord is the place to be. I'm also trying to be active on a Discord that my wife and I started for Star Trek fans here in Michigan called United Trekkers of Michigan, but not just for Michigan, Trekkers wherever you happen to be. We want to have you. So with that, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you, sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
That was weird.
Beware the fog.
There we go. Good enough.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.